The second oldest social insurance scheme in Germany is perhaps the least well known.
Welcome to YD. Why do Germans do things the way they do?
While we saw last week that something like health insurance already exists in the Middle Ages, the insurance we are talking about today was first enshrined in law in this form in 1884 and introduced in 1885, the statutory accident insurance. We are in the midst of the industrialization, and the wealthy industrialists and factory owners have armies of workers who are often quickly replaced when they can no longer or no longer want to work. Since 1854, there have been factory inspectors who are supposed to check whether the workers are properly looked after in the factories and whether there are no accidents or fires. But they are understaffed and can barely keep up with the work. We had read in the general land law of Prussian state that the employer had to pay for injured and sick employees, but often only if he was to blame for the illness. Of course, no worker could afford a legal dispute, so it was left to the community and churches to pay for those in need and the impoverished. Even though the socialist laws were an attempt to combat the rise of trade unions and social democracy in general, it was primarily their relief fund that helped workers. On 17th November 1881, Bismarck read out the imperial message from Kaiser Wilhelm I, in which it was urged that to heal the social damage, the positive promotion of the welfare of the workers will have to be sought. There was to be insurance against illness, accidents, and risk of old age for the working population. After health insurance, statutory accident insurance was also created. However, this was something completely new and not uncontroversial, especially in industry. The revolutionary aspect was the approach. Employers were to join together to create an insurance scheme for their businesses that would cover the consequences of all types of accidents at work. The costs were to be borne by the employers alone, not half by the workers and half by the employers, as was the case with health insurance. In addition, all accidents at work were to be covered, regardless of whose fault it was. This meant that the employer did not have to be proven to be at fault first. The law also stipulates what and how much had to be paid, as well as the areas that were covered, such as mines, salt works, quarries, shipyards, and building yards, but also chimney sweeps, roofers, carpenters, bricklayers, and companies in which steam boilers were operated. All workers and Betriebsbeamte, company officials, who earned no more than 2,000 marks per year were insured against the consequences of accidents occurring in the company in accordance with the provision of this law. The costs of long illnesses or, in the event of death, the pension was paid to widow and orphans. Many entrepreneurs resisted this because it would mean rising costs or, better still, lower profits. The first self-governing associations of companies, which were already called Berufsgenossenschaften in the law, began the work on the day the law came into force on 1st October 1885. In 1886, there was an expansion that extended the Berufsgenossenschaften, employers' liability insurance associations, to other areas such as agriculture and forestry. In 1887, there were 62 Berufsgenossenschaften in the German Reich, the largest being the Knappschaft BG with 1,658 member companies and over 340,000 insured persons, followed by the Ziegelei-Berufsgenossenschaft for brickmakers with around 175,000 insured persons. The Berufsgenossenschaft der Schornsteinfeger, chimney sweepers, was the smallest with just under 5,500 members. The number of BG, as the Berufsgenossenschaften are abbreviated, rose to a peak of 69 in 1929. In addition to the rehabilitation of the labor force, for example, treatment after injury or compensation if you could no longer work, or for surviving dependents, accident prevention was also an important point. As the companies all had to pay in, they wanted contributions to be as low as possible, so there should be as few accidents as possible. The first accident prevention regulation were therefore issued as early as 1886. While the BGs initially had the right to prevent accidents, this became mandatory from 1900 onwards. Special technical inspectors were employed for this purpose, who visited the member companies and checked whether the measures were being adhered to. Even if the individual company did not like this, it was clear to the masses that they did not want to pay for the company that had too many accidents, as this would increase the contribution for everyone. There was a further expansion in 1925. Now the BGs also had to pay for the consequences of occupational illnesses. These include disease caused by lead, phosphorus, mercury, arsenic, benzene, carbon disulfide, paraffin, tar, anthracene, and pitch, as well as worm diseases in miners, diseases caused by X-ray, cataracts in glassmakers, and Schneeberg lung disease. Today we are familiar with dust lung in miners and floor dust allergy in bakers. In addition, commuting accidents on the way to or from work are now also covered. Even during the period of the Third Reich, the core of the BG and its responsibilities remained untouched. However, they were abolished in the GDR and only continued to exist in West Germany. In the 1950s, however, the self-administration of the BGs was changed. Whereas previously only representatives of the employers had to sit on the cooperative assembly, equal representation of employees was now introduced. In 1971, a school accident insurance scheme was set up so that pupils were now also insured on their way to and from school, and the possible consequences of an accident were covered. This is another reason why every time a child is injured at school, some paperwork has to be filled out in case there are long-term consequences. After unification, the new federal state also have to be covered by the Berufsgenossenschaften. In 1996, the prevention of health hazard also becomes the task of the BGs. Not only should bus drivers not have accidents, they should also know how to keep their back healthy in a largely sedentary job. While there used to be two groups, the Berufsgenossenschaften and the Unfallkassen accident insurance funds, these were united under the umbrella of the Deutschen gesetzlichen Unfallversicherung, German Social Accident Insurance, GGUV, and subsequently the employers' liability insurance associations were merged, in some cases forcibly, to form the 9 BGs that exist today. Berufsgenossenschaft for the Construction Industry, BGBAU, Berufsgenossenschaft for Trade and Goods Logistics, BGHW, Berufsgenossenschaft for Energy, Textile, Electrical and Media Production, BGETEM, Verwaltungsberufsgenossenschaft, Berufsgenossenschaft for bank, insurance companies, administrations, liberal professions, special companies, companies in the ceramic and glass industry, and companies in the tram, underground and railway industry, VBG, Berufsgenossenschaft for the raw materials and chemical industry, BGRCI, Berufsgenossenschaft for the transport and traffic industry, BG Verkehr, Berufsgenossenschaft for the food and catering industry, BGN, Berufsgenossenschaft for wood and metal, BGHM, Berufsgenossenschaft for health service and welfare care, BGW. Agriculture and horticulture have a special Berufsgenossenschaft which has been merged into the Social Insurance for Agriculture, Forestry and Horticulture, SVLFG. The special features of agriculture include the large number of family members and the calculation of contributions. The public sector in the federal states and municipalities also often has its own accident insurance institution. This model, which is actually very successful, has also been criticized because companies are compulsory insured and have no choice, as a specific BG is responsible for their sector. Legal action was taken against this, arguing that this was incompatible with the free market economy in the EU. In 2009, however, the European Court of Justice ruled that it was compatible with the European Community law. In the UK, following privatization, some employers were unable to find an insurer. Sometimes employees also complain as insured persons. While the BGs are generally considered to be doing a good job, those who are refused benefits always have a very bad opinion of the BGs. Like the other social insurance schemes, the BGs do not aim to make a profit and are financed by a levy. It should be noted that the BG system has replaced the employer's liability insurance. Whilst employers initially complained about the costs, they no longer needed liability for accident involving employees. This is because it is no longer possible for an employee to sue their employer for damages due to an accident at work or occupational illness. Around the millennium, for example, numerous asbestos lawsuits were filed against companies in the USA, many of which then had to file for bankruptcy. How are you protected against occupational accident or illnesses in your country? Remarks, addition, and comments in the comments. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next video.